I was in love, madly in love. The kind of love that wraps itself around your heart so tight that you do anything for the one you love. That's how I felt about my husband, Okechukwu. In fact, I loved him so much that I believed I could sacrifice anything, even my life, for his happiness. But as I learned the hard way, love isn't always enough. My name is Chioma, and this is my story. When Okechukwu and I first met, I thought I had found my soulmate. He was charming, strong, and determined. He had this fire in his eyes, the kind that made me believe he could move mountains. I admired his dreams, the way he spoke about the future, and how we would have a beautiful life together. His voice was filled with hope and ambition, and I believed every word. He made me feel safe, like nothing could harm us as long as we were together. After our wedding, things were tough, but I was willing to endure the hardships. Life in our village was not easy. There weren't many opportunities, and my husband's small business barely made enough for us to survive, but we managed. I would wake up early every morning to help him with the business, doing what little I could. We were a team. I believed that with patience and perseverance, we would make it. However, no amount of perseverance could prepare us for the storm that came day after day. Our financial troubles grew worse. It felt like a weight was pressing down on our shoulders, a burden that grew heavier with each passing moment. The arguments began. They were small at first, over little things like food or unpaid bills. But soon they escalated. Every day was a fight about money, or rather, the lack of it. I could see the frustration building in Okechukwu. He was a proud man, and not being able to provide for his family was killing him inside. One evening, after a particularly heated argument, Okechukwu left the house and didn't return for hours. I waited anxiously, pacing the floor, my heart pounding with worry. When he finally came back, he was drunk, stumbling through the door with a look of despair that I had never seen before. I was so scared. Scared for him, scared for us. He was losing hope, and I could feel it. That night, he almost took his own life, saying that he couldn't bear the shame of failing me. I held him close, tears streaming down my face. "We'll find a way," I whispered, though I wasn't sure how. The next morning, I knew I had to do something drastic. We couldn't continue living like this. We needed a miracle. I had heard stories from women in the market about a powerful spiritualist in a distant village. They said he could change people's fortunes, that he could bring wealth with the right sacrifices. I didn't believe in such things, but I was desperate enough to try anything. "Pack your things," I told Okechukwu that morning. We were leaving. "Where are we going?" he asked, confused. She will say. The journey to the village was long and arduous. We traveled deeper into the forest. A sense of dread began to build in my chest. What was I getting us into? But I pushed those thoughts away. This was for Okechukwu, for us. When we arrived at the spiritualist's hut, I could feel the weight of the place. It was dark and foreboding, with strange symbols carved into the walls. The man who greeted us was old, with a long white beard and eyes that seemed to see right through me. He did speak at first, just stared. Then finally he nodded, as if he already knew why we had come. "You seek wealth," he said, in a voice that was barely more than a whisper. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "Yes," I replied, my voice trembling. "We need money. We are drowning in debt. Please, can you help us?" "There is always a price," he said, his eyes narrowing. I swallowed hard. "What do we have to give?" "A sacrifice," he said, leaning forward. "Something dear to you, something precious." I glanced at Okechukwu, who was staring at the floor, his hands clenched into fists. "What kind of sacrifice?" "Your womb," the spiritualist said, his voice cold and detached. "You must give up the ability to have children. In return, you will have all the wealth you could ever desire." I felt my heart drop. Children, the very essence of a woman in our culture. What would I be without the ability to bear children? But then I thought of our struggles, of the hunger, the shame, the endless nights of worry. I thought of Okechukwu and how much he had suffered. Could I really give up the chance to have a family? Could I make such a sacrifice for wealth? I looked at my husband. He was silent, his face a mask of pain. He couldn't make the decision for me. This was my choice. "I will do it," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I will give up my womb." The spiritualist smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good," he said. "You must also swear an oath. Your husband must never go after another woman. If he does, the curse will take him." We both agreed. Okechukwu swore that he would remain faithful, that no other woman would come between us. And with that, the ritual began. The spiritualist performed his rites, and when it was over, he warned us never to speak of the sacrifice to anyone. As we left the village, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was done. The sacrifice had been made, and now we would be rewarded. And rewarded we were. From the moment we returned home, it was as if a dam had burst. Okechukwu's business flourished. Money came pouring in from every direction. We bought a new house, new cars, and people began to look at us with envy. They whispered about our sudden wealth, but no one knew the truth. No one knew the price we had paid. For a while, life was good, but as time passed, I began to feel the weight of my sacrifice. Every time I saw a child, my heart ached. I would watch women in the village cuddling their babies, and a deep sadness would settle in my chest. But I reminded myself that it was worth it. Okechukwu and I were happy, and that was all that mattered, or so I thought. It wasn't long before the rumors started. A friend of mine came to me one day, her eyes filled with concern. "Chioma," she said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I saw Okechukwu with another woman." I froze. "What are you saying?" "They were together," she said, her voice hesitant. "I think she is his mistress." At first, I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. After everything we had been through, after the oath we had taken, There was no way he would betray me like that. But doubts began to creep into my mind. I confronted him that evening and he denied it. He swore he would never do such a thing, and for a while I believed him. But the whispers didn't stop. Every time my friend saw Okechukwu with that woman, she would tell me, until one day she came to me with news that broke my heart. Chioma, that woman is pregnant. My world shattered. Pregnant? How could he? After everything, I felt as if something inside me snapped. I went searching for them, and when I finally found them together, I saw the truth with my own eyes. There she was, her belly swollen with his child. My heart turned to stone. I couldn't confront them. I couldn't speak. The weight of our secret, the sacrifice we had made, held me in silence. But I knew that the oath had been broken. I knew that something terrible was coming. 14 days later, Okechukwu was dead. He collapsed in the middle of the street and no one could explain why. But I knew it was because he had broken the oath. The curse had come for him, just as the spiritualists had warned. After his death, strange things began to happen to me. My health deteriorated rapidly. I lost weight, and no matter how many doctors I saw, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. But I knew the truth. I was dying inside, consumed by the curse we had brought upon ourselves. One day, someone suggested I see a man of God. At that point, I was willing to try anything. When I arrived at his church, he looked at me as though he had been waiting for me. You must confess, he said. Go and tell your in-laws what killed your husband, and you will be free. Confess? The spiritualists had warned us never to speak of the sacrifice, but I had no choice. I was dying, and I needed to be free. So I gathered Okechukwu's family and told them everything. The sacrifice, the oath, the betrayal. They were shocked. But the man of God prayed for me and asked God for mercy. From that day, my health began to improve. Slowly, I started to gain weight again, and the darkness that had been consuming me lifted. I had been given a second chance. And now, as I sit here telling you my story, I realize that love is blind, but marriage will open your eyes. God's time is the best, and no amount of wealth is worth the price of your soul.
Thanks for watching. Support my channel by subscribing, liking, sharing, and turning on notifications to stay updated on new stories.